Sanctuary, and it's getting darker outside earlier and earlier. And yeah, while that's not our favorite thing, it does illuminate the beauty of our Aron HaKodesh and our holy ark and the gorgeous stained glass that we have surrounding it that was visioned and created by our own Susie Durzen. And this beautiful piece gives life to our understanding of Torah as our tree of life, the center and heart of our tradition. So we'll begin our service together on page 8. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue with Hachama Merosh, the first line of Shabbat HaMalkah on the bottom of page 10.
The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and here abide. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace also to you, you angels of peace. Hachama merosh ha'ilanot nistalka, bo'u v'neitzeh likrat Shabbat hamalka. Hinei yoredet hakdosha haberucha, ve'ima malachim tzva shalom umenucha. Boi hamalka, boi hakala. Shalom aleichem malachei hashalom.
That was beautiful. What a lovely song that the first line, the sun on the treetops is no longer seen. How appropriate for this time of the year. We turn now to our Kiddush, and we'll rise together. We turn first, we'll stay seated. We'll do this in the right order. I'm new, I get a little bit of a pass. So we'll start with candles. Lighting candles, and I would be honored to call up Beverly Ugent to light our Shabbat candles for us. We're on page 3.
Shabbat Shalom.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzavanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Let's sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. And it is an honor to call up Linda Berlin and Jeff Berlin to lead us in the Kiddush, and we'll turn to page 5 for all the sweetness that you bring to our community. Now we will stand up. Now we will rise. Sure.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho Be'ava uvratzon hinkilanu Zikaron lemahase v'reshit Ki hu yom tekilah lemikrae kodesh Zecher litziat mitzrayim Kivanu Ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim V'shabbat koshecha ve'ava uvratzon hinkaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Thank you. A nice vintage.
Pretty good.
L'chaim. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, Rabbi, I have other good news too. You want to hear it?
Yes.
Linda's the newest member of the choir. Yay!
Woo! Congratulations.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. So we turn now to page 24. And there is a teaching in Jewish tradition that 2 angels go with each person from the synagogue to their home as Shabbat arrives. We welcome Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem as we greet all the good that exists in our world and all the angels who have touched our lives. May it be for us a Shabbat of peace. You may be seated.
Let's keep singing together. That sounded so beautiful. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And on page 27, responsively, teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair.
Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways.
We'll turn back to page 26 for Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, uv'izman kari ve'imeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, le'alam le'olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal shemei dekudeshah. Brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, ve'imeru, Amen.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence. We'll turn to our call to worship on page 28. Please stand together for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach, le'olam va'ed.
We'll continue on page 30 together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, bore yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uven layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai hama'ariv aravim. We'll continue with Ahavat Olam on page 32.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam valayla Ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
We'll turn to our call to worship. We'll turn to the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated, and we'll turn to page 36 for Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'keshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chetavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem, amen. Quick, pitter-patter, carrying me forward. Almost there, don't look back. Big hands on little shoulders, push, Last strides, push. Crash, deafening sound of waves fades into sweet song. Swing onto shoulders, giggles, pure joy. See the women, arms wrapped around the drums, beating, stomping, heads back, mouths curving around notes, lifting up over all of us, protecting us, holding us together. Eyes meet, twinkling laughter. Circle, legs dancing, stomp, sway, arms swinging, release. Miriam, tears flowing, smiling, leading us as we become an us on the other side of the water. We'll turn to Micha Mocha on page 40.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele, malechutecha ra'u vanecha bokeif ne Moshe uMiriam zeli ve'ameru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Adonai imloch leolam va'ed v'ne'emar Kifada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
We'll turn to page 43 at the top. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, Ba'al Yerushalayim. We'll continue with V'shamru, a song about our joy in Shabbat on page 44 at the top.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael Et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We'll turn to page 47 and read together. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We'll stand for Tefillah, the center of our worship, on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufia gitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamolcha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We'll read together at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We'll continue with Ritzeh on page 56.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael El karov lechol koral pnei el avadecha v'chonenu shefoch rochacha aleinu v'techezena eineinu b'shuvecha letzion berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato
How beautiful to have such a beautiful melody and to hear our congregant Mickey singing along in his baritone from our choir. Beautiful harmony. We will continue on page 58 with the Hoda'ah prayer. Modim anachnu lach she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu le'olam va'ed. At the top of 59 together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, on page 61, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. As we turn to Misha Berach on page 253, our hearts turn to those dear members of our community who are in need of healing of refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, of spirit and healing of body. Those we love and who love us, they are a blessing in our lives, and we pray that for their refuah shlema, for a full healing. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of Shandol Bat Frida Malka, Shirley Graham, Laura Bublitz, Keturah Bublitz, Ari Bublitz, Julie Borikoff, Margot Raz, Carol Dubin, Carrie Yudkovich, Otto Feller, Samsara Vizkaya, Sharon Rotman, Eliyahu Ben Maxinamala, Bob Bradkey, Lyle Rubel, Mark Cook, Moshe Ben Nechama, Jeanne Bass, Alan Turner, Judy Weingarten, Myron Dvorkin, Esther Cohen, Lauren Cheris, Matt Cheris, Lisa Furstad, Terry Finch, Harav Ilana Miriam Bat Chava, Faye Levin, Sarah Rachel Bat Yocheved Alexander, David Feldner, Prue Precourt, Linda Berlin, Alan Elias, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, Avram Ben Naftali, Emma and Max, Doug Cruz, Nadiva Sara Bat Liba, Sharon Rothstein, Devora Bat Yehuda Malchus, Judith Naiman, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Marilyn Harmon, Mark Berlin, Chris St. Martin, Ellen Futterman, Mark Ackerman, Gilbert Offenhartz, Risa Cyril Bat David Vachaya Ita, Barry Bursack, Debbie Kelly, Gilbert Offenhartz, Janet Meister, and Michael Messy. If there are names that should be added to this list, or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, I invite you to hold them in your hearts as we turn to the words of Misha Beirach. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim, blessed are you, the source of healing.
Let's join our voices together. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Beirach imotenu Mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We'll take a moment now for silent prayer, the words in our hearts.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. May the one descend on all of us, on all of us, and Israel. Let us say Amen. O se shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. May the one who makes peace above make peace descend on all of us, on all of us, and Israel. Let us say Amen. O se shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I remember a Jewish friend, David, telling me about staying at a family friend's house. David's parents were out of town, and he and his sister were so excited they got to have a sleepover in the middle of the week. One of the nights, the mom said, "Okay, time to get ready. We're going to church tonight." David told me he wanted to go, but he was also kind of nervous. He hadn't been to a Catholic church for a weekday mass before. What should he do? He knew we bowed for certain Jewish prayers, and he wondered if he would be expected to bow or kneel in church. Would they know he was Jewish? Would they care? In this week's parasha, Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah, we read about Abraham's servant, Eliezer, and his task of finding a wife for Isaac. Sarah had just died at 127 years of age, and Abraham was getting on in years, at least a young 127 years old. Looking back on the full life he had lived to that point, he realized that now was the time to have Isaac married so he could live to see it. So he spoke to his trusted servant Eliezer and had him swear an oath to find Isaac a wife from Abraham's homeland. Abraham ordered Eliezer not to find a woman from Canaan, where Abraham lived. Rabbinic commentators had several explanations for this. Maybe it was because Abraham was more comfortable with people he knew, his family, those in the land where he was born. Maybe it was because he did not want to mix with the Canaanites, whose land God would give him later. Whatever the reason, Eliezer swore the oath. Eliezer wanted to make the best choice, especially because Abraham had been so good to him. So he prayed to God for help on his mission. He devised a small test to see if the woman was kind, with good moral character. Eliezer stood near the town's well, and he saw many women drawing water. If she says yes, he He thought, saying to God, I'll ask a young woman for water. If she says yes and also gives water to my camels, let her be the one whom you have selected for Isaac. The woman would care for a stranger and his animals. She would be righteous and kind. The next woman he saw was Rebekah, who was Abraham's kin. He ran to her and requested water. She gave him water to drink, and she drew water for his camels, too. Then she brought him back to meet her family. Eliezer told the family why he was there. We are taught that the Torah does not use extra words. Everything that was written has a purpose. Some laws are so brief that we need more explanation of them later on. We can find meaning in even a single letter. Yet in this week's parashah, we read the story of Eliezer looking for Isaac's wife twice. It was shared by the narrator, and then Eliezer recounts the story when he met Rebekah's family. One piece in particular caught commentators' attention, and it stuck with me as well. Towards the beginning, when Abraham demanded Eliezer swear an oath, he said, I will make you swear by Adonai, the God of heaven and the God of earth. Later on, when Eliezer explained his mission to Bethuel and Laban, Rebekah's father and brother, he changed it to be an oath to Abraham alone. Now my master made me swear. Why did Eliezer take God out of Abraham's oath? Let's go back a couple of weeks to Parashat Lech Lecha. Abraham became the first Jew. God called him to leave his home and go to the land that God would show him. Last week, he entered the covenant with God to follow God's ways, be righteous, and pass these teachings on to his descendants. Abraham was the first Jew, but he had roots too. He chose Judaism, and his family had their own religious beliefs. Nechama Leibovitz, a brilliant Israeli biblical scholar, created lessons on Torah, bringing together well-known biblical commentaries. She pointed out this difference between Abraham and his family. She wrote, we have the glossing over of the differences in faith between Abraham and his family in Haran, reflected in the omission of the phrase, the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, which would not be appreciated in Laban's circles. Commentators argued that God was left out of this verse for Laban's benefit. These were ancient times, so marriage worked differently than it does today. While today, people often ask for their parents' blessing to get married, in those days, fathers had to give permission for their daughters to marry. If they said no, the marriage did not happen. The commentators here are implying that Eliezer left God out in order to close the deal with Bethuel and Laban. Maybe her male family would not have allowed Rebekah to leave otherwise. I think there is a more nuanced answer to this question. Eliezer left out the God of heaven and the God of earth in verse 37, but a few verses later he shared that Abraham said to him, Adonai, whose ways I have followed, will send God's angel to you, with you, and make your errand successful. So Eliezer did not remove God entirely from the story. He did not skip over Abraham's conversion to Judaism or his Jewish beliefs. He showed respect for Abraham's family, those of another faith tradition, in their understanding of God or multiple gods. In our What's New group, for people to talk about what's going on in their lives and issues that are important to them, we talked about religious tolerance the other day. One person shared their experience visiting a church and feeling singled out. Another shared that they've always been comfortable being with people from all different walks of life. We had a pretty good discussion about how to be respectful when we visit other houses of worship. We can stay true to our beliefs, and also be respectful observers. Today, religious tolerance and acceptance are being tested. In a time when people have more information at their fingertips and are more likely to have friends and family members who do not share their religious beliefs, we still struggle. At the very least, tolerant and accepting voices are being drowned out by louder, intolerant, hateful voices. We have to be louder. Our commitment is to be people of faith who live alongside other faiths, happily and peacefully. We can do that by learning. We have to take the time to learn about other religions. In order to understand and be good citizens of the world, we need to talk with people and experience their perspective. Talk to friends and family members who have different beliefs than you. Really listen to what each other has to say. Go visit a friend's place of worship, see what it's like to be there, and talk about it afterwards. These are the important conversations and experiences that we really need to be having. My friend David told me about the rest of his time with the family friends. He did end up going to church with them, and he stood when they stood, and he sat when they sat. When it was time to kneel, he stayed in his seat, not feeling quite comfortable with it. When it was time to take the Eucharist, the wafer and the wine, David's friends went up, and he and his sister stayed in their row. It was a good experience for them. They were able to be there and be present and be respectful, while also allowing room for their religious truth. For this Shabbat, may we take the time for learning about our own tradition and those around us. May we live openly, peacefully, and respectfully. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. It is my pleasure to call up Abby and David Nash to open our ark doors for Aleinu, the beginning of our concluding prayers. On page 282, we'll all stand together.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Shabbat Shalom.
Asher Koach, Shabbat Shalom, thank you so much. And you may be seated. We turn to page 294, and we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. While their physical presence is no longer, we feel them with us in our hearts. Their memories shine brightly, a light that guides us. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are commemorating the period of Shloshim for these dear members of our community: Suzanne Salitra and Neville Sender. Our memories pulled from our minds again and again are softened by the passing of time, glowing with warmth as we mark the yahrzeit of loved ones who died at this time in years past. Our community remembers Fred Alderman, Louis Apple, Jean Bard, Sigmund Benzinger, Edward Bloom, Janice Bressler, Albert Cohen, Annette Cohen, Joseph Cohen, Morris Cohn, Zia Dolgan, Eudice Cater Feller, Evelyn Franklin, Harriet Lee Fromstein, Robert Gill, Alan Glickman, Jenny Goldberg, Sonia Golopal, Jody Lynn Hirsch, George Herlock, Helen McLeod Jacobs, Martin Jacob, Gerald Kahn, Phyllis Kaplan, Morton Kesselman, Kathy Ann London, Cecile Lazoff, Morris Mayerson, Sylvia Melnick, Joan Meckler, Alice Cateman, Zelda Rogoff, Sam Rosen, May Rosenberg, Jerome Sadowski, Samuel Monroe Saphir, Andrea Jennifer Stein, Miriam Stein,